Okay, there it is. All right, thank you all for joining. I know earlier in October we did the generation messages and delete long-term forecasts. So finishing it out here with um, simultaneous bidding. And Diana mentioned that this presentation would be available on Dojo, but we also, while we still have it, make it available on Extra Nice, just like we've done with previous releases. So we're going to talk through simultaneous bidding. I'm going to show a couple of slides, and then I'm going to do a demo in an actual system so that you can see it from that standpoint. Okay, so the reason why we added this feature in release 7.5, if you have worked with any customers that use our time off manager feature, one of the biggest complaints that we've gotten is that the process can be very time consuming. And there are very limited options to kind of speed the process up because agents had to bid one at a time. So we added this feature to address that. It also was a customer requirement that we had for City. And as you can imagine, there were numerous requests out on the ideas forum to add this simultaneous bidding option. And with this option, it will allow agents to submit their requests all at once. So it takes out that time-consuming factor where it can get stuck on an agent, and then bids can be processed all at once. So some important notes as we go through this. Cost. If a customer has the time off manager feature, they have access to this. So there's no special setup like in the features table or any additional costs, because again, if they have purchased the time off manager feature, it will be included within that. When it comes to access, of course, they'll need to have time off manager, and then that will need to be enabled in the features table. But once it is, then there'll be the traditional permissions that we've got. So if there are new screens, which there's a new wizard that we have, and there is a new view within Supervisor Web Station, then, they'll need to have permissions to access that. When it comes to submitting simultaneous bidding requests, you'll see more of this when I go through the actual screens in just a moment. But for simultaneous bidding requests specifically, they can be submitted by agents or supervisors, and they'll only be able to submit those requests if the time off rule is set to use simultaneous bidding and there are bid names that are open for bidding. And again, you'll see that in just a moment. Now, for supervisors specifically, this is something new. So with our other two options, supervisors could submit on behalf of agents with no restriction. There is a new parameter that we have added at the request of our customers that could restrict so that supervisors can view requests, but they won't be able to submit on behalf of their agents. When it comes to processing requests, only time off rules that are set to simultaneous bidding and have bid names that are closed for bidding can be processed. Reason for that, of course, is if it is open for bidding, you don't want to process while people are submitting their requests. So they're only going to be able to access anything that's closed. And when it comes to kicking off the process for simultaneous bidding, it's going to be limited to only one job per time off group and time off rule. And the reason for that is allotments. The main reason is allotments and also processing time. So if for a time off group and a time off rule, you can have many different bid names. You don't want the different bid names all processing at the same time because essentially they're pulling from the same pool. So we have limited that. And also from a processing standpoint, we don't want a ton of processes all kicked off. Okay, so those are the main notes. As I'm going through, you'll see a little bit more of this as I'm showing it actually within the RCP. But before I can show it in the RCP, let me just run through how it currently functions prior to release 7.5. Okay, so today, for anybody that has 7.4 or below, agents, of course, have to be assigned to their time off group. Time off rules are assigned to the time off group. You set your bidding parameters. You define your allotments. As a part of setting your bidding parameters, there's the option where you can select agents must bid one at a time, or sorry, agents must bid in order. And there's an additional option where you can set if they can only bid one at a time. And that's essentially bidding sequentially. And then agents are out there submitting the requests, or supervisors are submitting on behalf of agents. And supervisors have to go in there and they have to manage the bid. Because of course, as the agents are going through, based on however many agents are in the time off group, it could get held up for whatever reason. Maybe somebody is sick or on time off. If it's that agent's turn to bid, there's a manual process that has to happen to move the process along. And then once we finally get to, the last agent in the sort order and all bidding is complete, then it's done. So as you can imagine with that process, there are some areas in this process that can delay the bidding. And those two areas are with agents bidding sequentially and supervisors or the administrators managing the bid. So that can make a process take multiple weeks, which is not something that our customers want. Because again, the process to move the bid along, it requires a combination of the RCP going into that agent time off summary screen, and there's a bid column that you have to check. And submitting requests on behalf of agents. Maybe they reach out to that agent and ask them, what do they want, so that they don't just pass that person. Then they go in and submit it for them. And if a supervisor is going to submit on behalf of an agent, they still got to go in there and check that bid checkbox. So it's a process that many of our customers did not like, and some of them, quite frankly, hated because it took so long for them to get it done. So what are we going to do about it? So with the new process, what will happen is you will set your bidding parameters. You'll get those defined. You'll set your bidding option. You'll create your bid names, set those open for bidding. Agents or supervisors, if they're allowed, during that bidding window, will go out and submit their requests. They can all do it at the same time. Once the bid closes, it's going to close based off of the end date. So there's not something that you actually have to do to get it to close. It's just once the end date is there, the date after that, they won't be able to update or edit any requests. Works very similar to the bidding window that we've got for our scheduling process for scheduled bidding. Then, allotments need to be defined, because then you're going to process the bids. And I'll go into more detail about what happens during processing. As a part of processing, time off will be awarded, and the associated views within WebStation, be it agent or supervisor, and of course the reports, they'll be updated and they'll be able to see the information there. And then there's a brand new screen that we've added into Supervisor WebStation. where you'll be able to see all the bid requests. And of course, once processing has happened, you'll be able to see the results. There's a question there in the chat. Is this similar to pattern biddings? There are many similarities, but it's not exactly the same. And I'll try and talk more about the similarities as I go through the various screens. Okay. All right, so let's take a look at it. So if we go into our RCP, let me actually back up just one bit to users and permissions. So I talked about in the important notes how you have to have the associated permissions to be able to access these new views that are available. And of course, there are existing views that we just updated. So you will need to have permissions to that as well. So once this finally opens, then you will go to your time off manager section. And the main areas that a supervisor would need permissions to: time off rules, of course, because that's where you set your parameters. There is process simultaneous bids. If there's someone that would be allowed to process bid requests, then they'll need access to this, and it's a yes or no. Yes, of course, means you can see it and you can kick off the process. And then there's the brand new simultaneous bidding view that is only available in Supervisor Web Station. It's also a yes/no. Okay, now outside of that, the other permissions for entity permissions, they still apply. So, whatever they're allowed to do by time off group, that will still apply to the various views that they open. Okay. All right. So in the time off manager section, if you open up your time off rule view, there's a couple of changes that we made. So we had the bidding rules tab. It existed before, but we have updated it, and we have moved some of the information to a brand new tab here that is called additional settings. So I'm going to start with that one first, and then I'm going to go back to the bidding rules. So on the additional settings tab is information that if you have accessed time off manager before, you should be pretty familiar with. There's your master from and to date, same options that you had before. There's your agent web station options, same options that you had before. Nothing's changed with that. It's still accessible, it still applies, whether you're using simultaneous bidding or not. Okay. Now, the bidding rules screen, we have updated that quite a bit. So the first thing is we used to kind of have it more implied when it came to the bidding option. We had that one checkbox where it said agents must bid in order. And then if you check that box, then there was another option that would display that said agents must bid one at a time. So instead of the implied options, we've made it very clear the three options that are available. So the first two are, they were available, prior to 7.5, and they still will function exactly the same. The third option is the brand new one. Now, while I'm talking about these options, you'll notice that there's other sections on the screen. There's a bidding sort order section, there's a request type section, and then there's the simultaneous bidding options section. So each one of these sections that you see below bidding options, they'll become enabled or disabled based on the bidding option that you choose. So starting out with the first bidding option, submit requests on a first come, first served basis. Okay, existing option that we've always had since God knows how long. And bidding sort order is disabled. It doesn't apply because it's just open to everybody. You're not sorting agents by any type of order, so it's disabled. Request types, whether they're allowed to do all request types, which includes days and weeks, or they're only allowed to do weeks. It's an option we've had from before, and you can see that it is enabled. The simultaneous bidding options table that you see down there, it does not apply to first come, first serve. So it is disabled. Okay. So when I switch it to submit requests in sequential order, again, this is one of our options that we've had for a very long time. It's still there. You still have your one agent at a time parameter that you can select or deselect, but you'll see that bidding sort order does apply in this case. So it's enabled, and the three options that we had from before, still there. You can still choose them. Okay. Request types also applies. Those options are still there. You can still choose them. Okay. Now, the new option, submit requests by preference for simultaneous bidding. This is the new option. And if you remember back from the PowerPoint presentation that I shared with you, talked about how supervisors had previously always been allowed to submit requests on behalf of their agents. Well, now there's a parameter for simultaneous bidding only, where you can decide, or the customer can decide, if they want to allow that or not. And this again is by time off rule. So if they check this, when a supervisor goes in, if they have permissions to time off manager, and they have permissions to a time off group, they'll be able to go in there and submit requests on behalf of their agents. If this is unchecked, then if they have permissions to the screen and the group, the only thing they'll be able to do is view it. Okay. Now, if you notice, the bidding sort order and the request types, those are disabled. It's not because they don't apply, but it's because there's a simultaneous bidding table at the bottom where you can set those individually by bid name. Jesus, you have a question here. Is this your question? Is it still 24 hours for the timer?
No, that probably is another question for maybe later, but I have a question about the allow supervisors to enter preferences.
Mhm.
So how does the system determine the supervisor? I mean, does it have to do with like agent data groups, or is it like everybody who has access is a supervisor? I mean, access to WFM
Yeah,
time manager.
it's literally anybody that's a supervisor.
Got it.
Yeah, you know, we only have, you know, two personas with
Mhm.
our product, right? You're either an agent
Sure.
or you're a supervisor. So it's just going to look at anybody that's a supervisor, and then the, you know, time off group permissions can filter that list down, and then, you know, of course, they have to have permissions to the view as well.
Right. Got it. That's what I wanted to confirm. Thank you.
Sure, no problem. And then just to answer your question real quick, there's no change to the timer. It'll still function the same that it is. And the timer won't apply to simultaneous bidding. It'll only
Got
apply
it.
to sequential. So
Yeah, I figure it would probably be the same. So thank you.
yeah. And, you know, the timer also doesn't apply to first come, first serve. So it's really that
Mhm.
one option sequential that it applies to.
Oh, thank you.
Sure, no problem. Okay, so for the table down here at the bottom, the simultaneous bidding options. So as you can see, it's got an add row. And for many of our customers, when we were talking to them, they bid in multiple rounds. So a way to represent those rounds in the time off rule is by the bid name. So the bid name, they can call it whatever they want. And then we have this section here, dates open for bidding. So this is defining when they have access. So one of the questions was, is it similar to patterns when you're doing scheduled bidding? And if you recall on the, I think it's bidding parameters, or I can't remember which screen it is exactly for scheduled bidding, but you're setting when the agents are allowed to go in and preference their bid. It's the same concept here for the bid name. So you're defining when they'll be able to go in to access Time Off Manager and start submitting their requests. And once that date ends, then it's closed and they won't be able to edit those requests any longer. And then I talked about how the bidding sort order and request types are disabled above, and that's because we've added them as columns within this table that you can define by bid name. So the request types, you see, there are the two options, all request types or forcible weeks, still works the same. And then we've got the bidding sort order section down here at the end, and you've got your same options here: alternate seniority date, and extension and rank, and then you still have your low to high that you can define. Now, in the request type section, you will be able to define either the max days or the min-max days or the min-max weeks. These are options that we had a max option for request types when you're selecting the other two, first come, first serve, or sequential. But you'll be able to define these per bid name, and they will come into play also during processing. So the enabling or disabling of the columns. So if I have forcible weeks, that means I can only select weeks. Those are the only type of time off requests that I can submit. So you'll notice that the max days and the min days are disabled, and you're only able to fill in the max and min weeks. And you can set zero if, you know, minimum is not required. Okay, so those are the updates that we made to the time off rule. And if you, I'm going to go ahead and leave this the way that it is right now. And I'm going to go in as an agent first so that you can see. I think I put the wrong agent ID in. All right, so if I go to time off manager and I pick my time off rule, this is how it functions today without this new option. And I go into my 2023 rule, then I'll be able to come in here and I'll be able to submit a request because it is set to first come, first serve. Now, if I was an agent, how would I know if it's first come, first served, or if it's sequential, or if it's simultaneous bidding? Well, prior to 7.5, you would have no idea. So if it was set to sequential and you're bidding without somebody telling you, you don't really have an idea, because you might come in here, you may see this link, you may not. So one of the things that I wanted to make sure to do was make it easier for agents to get an idea of, you know, what the option is set and the master date range, because those are kind of two gaps. The master date range you can only tell by looking at this calendar. So in bidding data, I've added some things here. First thing is bidding option. You can see what is it set to. The second thing is the master date range, right? The master date range tells the agent and supervisor, what dates am I allowed to request? So we made all that available here in the bidding data. Now, if it is set to simultaneous bidding, it would be great if agents could have an idea of, well, when am I allowed to submit my simultaneous bidding request? When are they open for bidding? So we added this new section in here that tells them that. It's going to show all the bid names for the time off rule that's assigned to their time off group. They're going to see it. They're going to be able to see the from and to date. So as an agent, I can come out here and I can look and see when they're open. So based on this, I can see that there's only one bid name that would be open if my bidding option was set to simultaneous bidding. Okay. So what I'm going to do is now I'm going to change it to simultaneous bidding. But before I do that, one quick thing. So if I was going to submit a request as an agent, I come in here and I see my request screen and I'm putting in my type of time off, my length, my start and end date, and I go ahead and I submit it. Or I can come in and I can edit a request and I will be able to change my type of time off, change my length, and I can save it or I can delete the request. So let me switch it to simultaneous bidding and show you what's different. So I'm going to go ahead and save this. Okay. I'm going to come back. And I'm going to go back in. And first thing, I'm going to check my bidding data. And I'm going to see it's set to simultaneous bidding. And again, I see I've got one bid name that I am allowed to submit requests for. So since that is the case, I do see my request time off link, and I can also make updates from the calendar. So outside of those two things that I showed you, there's some updates. If you notice, there's a different color that's showing on this calendar. Okay. And if I go to my color key, I can see that there's this new color here. So for submitted or processed requests, they're going to show in this new purple color. And then you got all your other colors that you've always had from before. So submitted or processed is only for simultaneous bidding. So first thing I'll do is I can select a date from the calendar if I want. Pick here. And most everything looks the same except for there's this brand new bid name field and there's this brand new priority field. And again, I only see these because it's set to simultaneous bidding. Okay, so I'm still going to pick a type of time off, and the length, it's going to be restricted to what I'm allowed to do. So because the bid name that is currently open for bidding only allows weeks, it's set to 4 full weeks. Then when I'm submitting my requests, oops, close this. When I'm submitting my requests, that's the only thing I see in my length field. Okay. So then it's the week of, and I only have one bid name that's open, so that's the only bid name that I see. If there had been multiple, I would see them in the list. And then I'm going to set a priority. Now, if I try to set a priority and it is duplicated by a request that's already out there, I am going to get a validation. The validation in here that you still have to start on your start day of week, it's still in there, so it can reset. And then it's going to tell me, well, you already have a request that has a priority of 1 out there. So how would I know that? If I go to my text view, we have a brand new section that's called bidding. And they can see all the requests that they have out there. Okay. And it's going to default to sort by bid name and then priority. So we can see here that there's a bid name that has already been processed, where you can see it. There's a brand new status column in addition to that priority column, and it tells the status. So let me talk about the priority column first. If you notice for the days, the priority field, they're all showing, but they're disabled. Okay. And if I look at the status, I can see that my first 3 were granted and one of them is showing as processed. So granted means exactly what you think it means. Request was processed and I got it. So if I look down here in my plan section, I can see that there is the same date for the same, the same type of time off, length, all of that is the same because I got granted. So I will always show my bidding request but a plan request is going to be created and it's going to show on the calendar. Okay. And if I edit it, I'll just be able to look at it. I won't be able to make any changes to it. If somebody wants to make changes to it, I'm going to show you how you can do that in just a moment. Okay. Now, the week's bid name is currently open for bidding, but one of the requests is showing its priority as disabled and there is no cancel link. And the reason for that is once a bid name has been processed and its status is granted, then you will no longer be able to edit it from the request because it's not going to get processed again. But if it has a status of processed or submitted, then you can change the priority if you want, because there is a brand new submit button. So I can change it directly from this table. If I want to swap these, this will become my number 3. This will become my number 2. And then I click submit. It has now swapped the request. When I come off the screen and come back on it, it's going to resort this. I can also click edit. And while I can't change the dates, I could change the type of time off if I wanted. Week cannot be changed to anything. I could change the priority from here if I wanted. And if there was more than one bid name that was open, I could switch it to a different bid name. I can also completely delete this request if I no longer want what I had originally submitted. Okay. Now, if I want to submit a completely brand new request, and let's say I want to do something in May, and I want to make it my number 4. So I can go to the calendar, or I can just click on the request time off, pick my type of time off that I want to use. And I will pick this date. And I'm going to make it my number 4 and submit. And here it shows in the table. And it will also show on the calendar. And I can edit from there too if I want. And when I go into my view additional information, I see all the information about my request. And when I first submit a request and nothing has been processed, it's going to have the submitted status. Okay.
So, sorry, this is Jesus. What does that look like on WFM's time of allotments, agent time of summary? Do we have new columns there as well?
So for simultaneous bidding request, because it's simply a request, it's not going to show on the RCP views. Those views only show you granted requests, be it an actual time off request or if it's waitlist. So since these are just requests, they've not been granted at all. They're not pulling from any time off. Even though you pick a code, it's not pulling from your individual bank because it's simply a request. Then it's not going to show on those views. It's also not going to show in the reports as well.
Right.
Okay.
I guess kind of what I'm going is that, so if you do like a regular request right now, it shows you like the planned time, and you can see that it's planned. Do we see something
Right.
similar for submitted or no?
That's what I'm saying, right? For those type of requests with planned, that means it's pulling from the agent's individual balance, it's pulling from the time off group balance. That's because it's been granted. Simultaneous bidding requests are just requests. They have not been granted. They're not pulling from any type of a balance. They've not been given to the agent. So you're not going to see it on those views.
Mm-hmm.
And we did not add a new column in any of our existing screens to just show submitted only, because it wouldn't be considered planned or taken anywhere, right? Now,
Gotcha.
once you actually go through processing, when I showed that the request is in the plan table, then yes, it's going to show on all those views and reports, just as it did before. Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Sure, no problem. Now, if I come into, was there another question? No? Okay. If I come into my time off rule and let's say that I want to close the bidding request. Before I do that, let me go in and show the supervisor view. So I've shown you the agent. Supervisor is going to look very similar, except I'm just going to refresh this without saving. The first way I'm going to show without allowing supervisors to enter on behalf of agents. So let me log out, go in as a supervisor. And first thing is my time simultaneous bidding, because I have permissions. And then we got our time off manager. I'll come back and show you a simultaneous bidding later. So we go into our time off manager and we're going to pick our time off group and we're going to pick the agent that we logged in as. And I'm going to pick the same rule as the agent. And if you notice, I do not have a link. And if I come to my bidding data, because supervisors also have access to the same thing, I can see it's set to simultaneous bidding, and I can see that the weeks rule is open. But because the parameter to allow supervisors has not been checked, I don't see the link, and my calendar is disabled. But I can still open requests, and I can see the information about the request, but I can't edit or put anything in for the agent. And when I look at my text view, everything's showing as disabled because I don't have access. But if I come in here and enable that parameter, there's my link. There's the bid naming priority that I can put in. And I can edit just like the agent can. Okay. All right. So once requests have been submitted, and if I come in here and I'm going to close out the bidding, I can see that I do have permissions, but it's closed. So when I check my bidding data, I can see, yep, it's set to simultaneous bidding, but there are no bids that are open. So all I can do is just view my requests. And that's because now that it's closed, somebody can come out and process the request. So there are, for the week's bid name, for that agent, they do have 4 requests that are out there. And if somebody kicks off the processing, 3 of them can be processed. Once a request has been granted, it's not going to be processed again. So it would be excluded from processing, and it's going to process these 3. submitted is the initial state, and processed means that it was included in the processing, but it couldn't be granted for whatever reason, the agent balance, time off group balance, or some validation. So what does the new processing screen look like?
Sorry, before you go there,
Mhm.
when those get processed, do we see it maybe on that text view at the bottom, like the reason or that denial or something like that? You see how you see taken, planned? Is there like an unsuccessful? You said that when they were processed and they weren't granted for whatever reason, or do we see that somewhere else?
So the reason that it's not granted, you're not going to see that on this screen. In the process report, we include all that information.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you.
Sure. Okay, so processing is done in the RCP. We have a brand new process simultaneous bids wizard. And of course, that's based on permissions. So when you double click on that, here's the first page of the wizard. So you're going to have to define your time off group. You're going to have to define your rule. And the rules that you see here are only going to show any bid names that are closed. So if there are bid names within the rule that are closed, then you'll see that rule listed here. So if I click on my selector here, I can see that for 2022 and 2023, we have them in the list. Okay, and then for the bid name, it's also only going to show bid names that are closed. So I see all 5 of them because all 5 of them are closed. So I'm going to pick weeks. Okay, and once you pick the bid name, then there is a dynamic portion for the minimum and maximum, and it's going to be based off of the request types that's defined for that bid name. So just so that I can show this to you, if I pick the days, because it's also closed, you can see that it says minimum days and maximum days. And if I go back to weeks, you can see it's minimum weeks and maximum weeks, because for the weeks rule, I force full weeks only. Okay, now if you notice underneath the bid name, there's this brand new parameter that's there called force assignments for the selected agents if necessary. So again, back to that question of schedule bidding. When agents are bidding for schedules, there is a force option where if they don't enter any, or if they don't enter enough preferences for their schedules, then you can force them into a pattern. And we have a similar concept for time off. Now, we added this because this is what customers asked for, and it's optional. So if you leave this unchecked, then it's only going to process agents that have requests entered. But if you check this option and there are agents that either did not submit any bid requests, or they did submit bid requests, but they didn't submit enough, let's say they're way far down in the bidding sort order, then you could force them into time off. And customers wanted that because they have instances where there's way too much time off in the agent balances as they're going through their year, and they don't want that. So if you check that box, you can see here there's these 2 radio buttons here. One option is use earliest available date. The second one is use latest available date. There's also a time off codes that you force into an assignment. So I'm going to switch back to my presentation. I'm going to show you a couple of notes around that. So the first thing is for processing. You're going to pick your agents, and the agents are going to be sorted based on sort order, right? So if you notice, you had a bidding sort order that you had defined per bid name, right? So in this case, we're sorting by seniority date and extension. So all that information that was entered either through agent definition or the agent time off parameter screen is going to be used to sort the agents, okay? Now, once the agents are sorted, then it's going to look and see, was forced assignments selected or not? If forced assignments is not selected, then agents without bids, because they're not going to get anything, they're going to be excluded from the processing because there's nothing to do with them. And you're going to see them in the process report. Okay. If forced assignments is selected, then agents that either do not have any bids or do not have enough bids, they're still going to be kept in the sort order. And then the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to sort the requests. So for each agent, they can have requests and they are defining the priority order for those requests. And we're going to use those to sort as we're going through and processing. Okay. Then processing is going to go ahead and move through each agent in the sort order. And the status of those requests will get changed. It's either going to get changed to processed, which means it was processed, but we couldn't grant the request due to whatever reason. Or it's going to change from submitted to granted. And that means that we are able to give the request to the agent. As a part of processing, all the existing validations that we have will be applied during processing. That includes looking at the agent balance, looking at the time off group balance, looking at the time off rule parameters for the days that they're able to have for week requests or day requests. Agent time off parameters will be a part of that as well, because we're looking to see, how much time do we need to grant? And if it is a week, how many days in a week? And any other validations that we have, like from the time off summary screen. And requests that can be granted, they'll be approved up to the maximum days or weeks that was defined during, defined when processing was submitted. So on this screen, we talked about the dynamic piece that you can see down at the bottom. It's going to use that maximum. Now, what happens if you use the forced assignments? So we talked about if forced assignments is selected, then we're going to keep agents in the sort order and we're going to process the agents in order. So that's when these other two parameters come into play. The use earliest available date, the use latest available date, and then there's a time off codes for forced assignment. So what does all that mean? So first thing is, I already talked about forced assignments is optional, and I want to make sure that's clear, that nobody has to force an agent into an assignment. But if they do, then we're going to grant up to the minimum that is defined there on that screen. And when you have to pick use earliest or use latest, so the earliest date, if that's selected, it's going to look at the master date range for the time off group and rule. So I've got an example here for this first one. So if the master date range is set to January 1st of 2023 through December 31st of 2023, and we have dates with enough time on May 1st, October 19th, and December 2nd, what date do y'all think the agent would be granted? Anybody? You can say it out loud or you can throw it in the chat.
May 1st.
May
May
1st.
1st.
One. Yeah.
Anybody think it's a different date? That's okay. It is May 1st. It's May 1st. I'm not trying to trip y'all up. Okay. And then, the opposite is true, right? So if you pick use latest available date, then it's going to look at your master date range, and it's going to look and see, okay, what dates have available time in the allotments, right? So same thing. Master date range is January 1st through December 31st. You got available time on May 1st, October 19th, and December 2nd. So what date do y'all think it'll be?
December 2nd.
December.
December. That's right. December 2nd. Okay, so that's how the used earliest or used latest available date would be used. But something else that we'll need is time off code, right? Because the earliest and latest date, that will help with the time off group and the allotments that are available. But we still need to know on the agent side, how much time can we grant for them, right? In order to do that, we need to know the code because that's associated with an earnings type. So as a part of that, something that you'll need to do is define a time off code. So you can define up to 3, but 1 is required. So let me go ahead and I'll start filling this stuff back out again. And then I'm going to pick my weeks. Okay. And I am going to pick my code. So the same time off codes that you have available at the time off rule level, you'll see that in the list. So let's say I want vacation to be my top priority. I can only define 1 if I want, but I can also decide, okay, I want to set personal as my number 2. So if these were set up to different earnings types, let's say my minimum is 2 weeks. Okay. So let's say that I can get 1 week from my vacation code. I can get another week from my personal as a part of processing based on what's available throughout my dates. That's exactly how it would be granted. I get 1 week of vacation, 1 week of personal. If I had 2 weeks available with vacation, then I would get the 2 weeks out of vacation and the personal would not be needed. But let's say I didn't have enough vacation, I didn't have enough personal, and I didn't have a third option, then processing would stop for that agent and I would not be able to force them into anything. Okay. So that's essentially what we're talking about here, where you have to have at least 1 time off code defined. You can have a max of 3, and that priority order for those time off codes is going to be used as a part of processing. Okay. All right. So once I pick my code, my group, my rule, my bid name, I can force assignments, and I'm going to use the earliest date. I have my codes defined. I've got my minimum and maximum. By default, it's going to pull automatically from what is defined for the time off rule, but you can change that as a part of processing. And then on my next page, this is where I'm going to pick my agents. So you do have your search, and it functions very similarly to the bidding screen, where we do have an indicator that will show agents that have submitted requests, and you'll be able to see agents that have not. Now, if I had come in here and I uncheck the forced assignments and I pick an agent that did not submit any requests and I click finish, it is going to give you a warning to say, hey, you picked at least 1 agent and they don't have any bids, but you're not forcing selections. Now, similar to our other processes, we'll still let you kick it off, but we'll warn you so that you can go back and say, wait a minute, I didn't mean to hit yes. I meant to say no and go back. You can go back and you can update it and force assignments. Let me do that again without me being click happy. I'll leave it set to 1. So when I click finish, it's giving me that message, and I'm going to say, no, I'm not sure, and I don't want to continue. Then I can go back and I can force assignments. And I will pick my codes. And I'm going to pick an agent that has time or has submitted requests. I'm going to pick an agent that did not. Okay. And then I'm going to click finish. And, you know, just like all the screens where you can view processes, if you still see it, that went pretty quick. So I only had 2 agents in there. You'd be able to see it on Process Monitor. You'd be able to see it in data logs. But it has completed. And if you remember back earlier in the month when I did the generation messages, you can see I already got my alerts down here at the bottom, right? And I can see that my processes were completed successfully. That first one, I didn't actually mean to submit it, but I did. And then the second one. So I can go view reports. I can click through here. I'm seeing the link because I have permissions. But I'm already logged in, so I'm just gonna use it from here. And I'm gonna go to my view. And I'm gonna go to my process reports. And I'm gonna go ahead and open that one I didn't mean to submit so that you can see the information in there. And it's gonna give you all the details about your submission. So I can see that there's me that kicked it off. I did this for time off group number 5 for the 2023 rule for the bid name weeks. My master date range is January 1st through December 31st. I can see that all my validations have passed. So there's not anything that would prevent the process from being kicked off. I can see that I'm processing for full week requests. Force assignment was not selected. Here's my min and max, and I only picked 1 agent. I can also see that for the agents that I picked, that this agent, the only agent, they didn't submit any, they don't have any requests out there with submitted or processed status, because again, if it's granted, we won't be processing it. And processing was kicked off, there's nothing to do because I picked an agent without forcing assignments. Okay, and you can see when it completed. But what happens if there's actually something to do? So I see all my same information that I talked about here, but I can see here I did force assignments. I picked earliest date. Here are the codes that I chose with the priority: vacation first, then personal. I picked 2 agents. One of those agents does not have any requests submitted. I'm sorting my agents by seniority date, low to high. So, and the agent that actually has a request is the 249. Based on the sorting order, the first agent that I'm going to process is going to be the 249. Because I only had a minimum of 1 week, then this agent got granted for the request that they submitted. Okay. We only process 1 week and the minimum is met. Now for the second agent, because we picked 2 agents in this process, they're also the one that didn't have any requests out there. We can see that they don't have any bids of their own to process. So forced assignment kicks in. And We looked at vacation. We looked at personal. We were not able to grant any of them. The minimum weeks was not met. So we have to stop because they're also the second agent and we're done with processing all the agents. If there was a third agent, we would move on to them. Okay. So for these process reports, we tried to make it very clear as much as we could what's happening in the processing and provide as much information as we could. Okay. So if I go back to my time off manager for that agent, did I pick 2023? On a second. Okay, so September 3rd through September 9th. So they were granted for one request. Oh, sorry, it was 249, not 251. I picked a different agent. Okay. Don't know why I see 249 there. Let me go back through this and pick the right agent. Sorry. Okay, so there's that agent 251. Okay, so if I'm looking at that agent 251 that I have been using all along, their first request from weeks had already been granted, so that wasn't included in the processing. But I had 3 requests that were included, and we had submitted one of them, right? So you can see that now for those 3 requests, we can see that their status is processed. And then for the last one, it was granted. So if I look at the first 2 requests, because they're sorted in priority order. So my first priority, or after the one that had already been granted, was March 26th through April 1st. So if I look at that one, it's showing that it's my priority 2. It originally had a status of submitted, and it could not be granted because the amount of time that I have is not enough for the 40 hours that needs to be granted. My number 3 priority was for January 15th, and based on time off parameters, a week is 5 days, but I can't give 5 days when looking at allotments. Now, for the last option, May 21st, my 4th priority, I was granted that. So as a part of this processing, my minimum was met, and I picked that same agent, 70003, and they didn't have enough time based on the 2 codes that were picked as a part of priority order. So even though forced assignments was selected, I couldn't grant. So when I look back at my agent 251, I can see here, there's my May 21st through 27th. I can see the status is granted. If I open it up and I look at my additional information, I can see the status is granted, and I can see it was last modified. I'm going to see the name of the person that kicked off the process and when it was kicked off. Okay. And I see it here in my bidding section, but if I look at my plan section, I also see there's a May 21st through May 27th request. Okay.
So Tawan, yeah, I have a question. What would if you forced an agent and he actually was granted time off due to the fact that he was forced, what would it look like here afterwards for that agent?
Here, what it would look like is you would not see a row in the bidding section because nobody submitted a bidding request, right?
Okay.
An agent didn't, the supervisor didn't, but I would see a planned request in here and it would look just the same as this.
Would it show which process created it?
It's not going to show the process that created it, but there is a note that's in here and it'll show like forced requests.
Okay.
I think
Gotcha.
I might have one in here that shows that I did previously. I'll have to find it, but that's what there's a little note that shows in the comment section that shows forced requests.
Okay.
Now,
And the agents,
go ahead.
sorry to win it. The agents would be, because they're not notified, they wouldn't realize until they come here and see it under the plan. Right?
Yeah, unfortunately, I had it as my nice to have that is unfortunately going to remain a nice to have for alerts. You know, with Time Off Manager, we don't have alerts of any kind. You know, we only have them for schedule changes, trades, and availability points. We don't yet have anything for time off. So I do have it in my backlog, you know, outside of simultaneous bidding, but, you know, waitlist as well. They don't get notified for that. So right now, they would have to come into Time Off Manager and take a look at their text view or their calendar view because it'll show on the calendar as well. So that May date,
True.
you see it in there as blue.
Mhm.
Okay.
And maybe a quick question. So if I have a bunch of agents or several agents fighting for the same time frame, and then of course in the process reports I can see the details, but as far as looking at their, let's say, seniority date to try to compare and figure out who got what, I would have to go back to the RCP and see it there, essentially, right? It's not part of the process report.
No, actually you wouldn't, because like I talked about, it's going to sort the agents, right? In this case, I only picked 2, but you can see it's sorted the agents, right? So 251 would be ahead of this 70003 agent. So they would be able to see it in their list because it sorts the agents and then it goes through, and once it has the bidding sort order for the agents, then for that individual agent, it's going to look at the requests that they have out there, if they have any, and it's going to start granting before it moves to the next agent. So if you had, this agent 251 and this 70,003 agent were all fighting for that May 21st date, then 251, they got it first. So even if the 70,003 had a request out there for 20,003, they would either be granted because there's enough time, or they would not, and they would see the reason why it's not granted there.
Got it. Perfect. Thank you.
Sure. Now, once bidding is done and, they don't need to process any more bid requests and all of that, what a supervisor can do is they can come in here, change it back to first come, first served. And then if the agent then wanted to edit the request, if they're allowed to, then they will no longer be able to make any updates to simultaneous bidding requests. They can still see them on the calendar, but then they can come in here and they can do what they need to requests that may be granted as a part of the simultaneous bidding processing, or, let's say there's no more time left, then they could submit waitlist and it would be processed automatically. So, this simultaneous bidding, the goal is not necessarily to leave it set to simultaneous bidding, but a customer certainly could if they wanted to. They could use these other options in conjunction with simultaneous bidding if they wanted to. Okay. Now, the brand new view that I talked about for simultaneous bidding, you'll see it here in the time off, oh my God, in this time off manager, in the time off manager section. And when you click on the simultaneous bidding, let me go back to this. You're gonna have a selector and you're gonna pick your group, your rule, and your bid name. So if I pick my group and I pick the 2023 and I pick the bid name and I'm gonna pick weeks and I hit OK, then for the time off group, I'm gonna be able to see all the requests that are currently out there. This is a view only screen, so you're not going to be able to make any adjustments. You're not going to be able to change priorities or type of time off or any of that, but you will be able to see it. There are only 5 requests here, but if there's something with multiple requests, and I'll show that to you in just a moment, we do have pagination built in here. You can search off the ID or name. To only limit your list here if you're only looking for a certain agent. You can export this view, and if you do have it filtered, that will apply to the export. Okay. So it took all that information. You can see it's only got 251. We do have sorting. So you're not going to sort by clicking on your column headers. It's going to function similarly to holiday preferences. You click on your settings icon and you're going to see your sort options. You can sort up to 5 columns. And you can pick, ascending, descending, you can move them up or down. You can add a column. And then that will get applied. And you see that you're going to have your number next to your column and your down or up arrow based on whether it's ascending or descending. And the sort settings would be applied when you export as well. Now, go ahead.
Sorry, regarding that sorting, in WFM, I noticed that you see maximum days and then minimum on the new tab that we have. Is that options to sort that there as well? Or I know it's kind of a tidbit, I guess, but I don't know if that's an option as well. And I mean in WFM, the main client.
I'm not sure what you mean with the. So you do define a minimum and maximum when you're processing, but it's not going to be one of the available columns that you have to see on this view. Here you're seeing
Right.
the actual requests themselves. So you're seeing
Mhm.
information about that request, the ID and name of the agent, MU status, type of time off, all those various things. You can also see date information, like
Yeah,
seniority date. But I'm not
I,
sure what you
I,
mean with the minimum. Go ahead.
sorry, I guess I mean in the main WFM client, in one of the new tabs that you have in your daily rules, in your sorry timer rules, where you were setting up the minimum days, minimum weeks, this little table at the bottom.
Uh-huh.
Um,
Yeah.
so I see that it's maximum and minimum instead of minimum and maximum. Maximum days that may be granted, maximum weeks, minimum days, minimum weeks. Can that be changed to be minimum then maximum? I guess again it's just like a thing. I think we will be asked. So I was just wondering.
Not Are you okay? Wait, you're not talking about the new screen at all. You're talking about this view just in general.
Yeah, I guess since you're talking about sorting and all of that, um, I was just wondering why it's showing maximum days and then minimums and not the other way around in this table here at the bottom.
Well, you'll either have max days or max weeks to enter. One of them is going to be disabled. It's going to be based off the request types that you select, right? So in this first example here, I've got 4 full weeks. So this max days column is disabled, and then I've got max weeks.
Yeah, but why is maximum first and then minimum? I guess that's my question. Again, I'm
Oh,
just saying because I might get asked that. I can see
yeah.
it coming. So
Is it something that can be changed? Not as a part of 7.5, unfortunately, no.
gotcha. All right.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Thank you.
Okay. Any questions about this simultaneous bidding view? You can also click on these links here. It'll pop you right back to the selector. You can be launched directly from the RCP into WebStation, just like many of our other views that you see in the module. It'll take you here. It can retain the settings per browser. So if you open the screen before, just like you saw when I opened the screen, it had the last options that I had successfully opened already in there. Any questions about this view or any other that I've shared during this meeting?
Yeah, does this view does it keep the sorting options you save, or is it just while you're logged in and with the screen open, and when you close it, it resets?
It will retain your save options, right? So if I log out here
Hmm.
and I come in and you see how it automatically logged me in, and I had
Right.
3 columns and they're all in there.
Okay. Cool.
Any other questions? Okay. I know Time Off Manager is very complicated, and unfortunately, we had to work all this into our existing Time Off Manager, but we tried to make this as simple as possible. We've gotten positive feedback so far from the customers that we've shared it with. City wanted us to be able to allow processing from the time off rule level, but obviously that's not something we're going to be able to do. So
Right.
any final questions? Go ahead.
Yeah, I guess I'm just wondering if I can test that out myself. I don't know if we can get access to 7.5 to test this out. Maybe later,
So
but just wondering.
We're doing alpha
Yeah.
testing.
we're
Yeah,
we're
starting
going
to
to go
say,
through
yeah.
that alpha process. So if you haven't already been selected as a candidate, I'm sure Diana might be able to share a little bit more about that process, but we will be going through alpha testing pretty soon.
Okay. All right.
Sure thing.
Hey, Tawana, would all of these apply to the time off rules that are by day, same thing, right? That wouldn't
Yeah,
make a
the
difference.
supplies, good question. Yeah, sorry. Days and hours rules are
Perfect.
included. Yeah, so real quick, I can pull up a days rule. And you can see we've got the counts as column.
Got it. Yeah. Okay.
Sure. Any other questions, thoughts, concerns?
There was this other question in the chat from Jesus. I think it's interesting. Would that process, you know how the forecast process, for example, could fail at some point and it would show fail in the process report? Would there be a reason for failure in this processing?
Yeah, so
Like total
there are
failure,
not
it failed completely.
there's not many reasons that unlike a forecast that can have many different reasons, they don't have objectives or whatever. There's not many reasons that this can fail, but if there were, you would see the X here and you would see fail, and when you open up the process report, you'll see whatever the reason is in there.
Got
But
it.
an individual agent as a part of a time off group that did not get time, that would not be a reason for failure, right? But yes, you'll see that in the process report, and you can also see that in your process alert window.
Great.
Any other questions? Okay.
All for me.
All right. Any thoughts, concerns?
Oh, this is great. Long-awaited enhancement. That's awesome.
Long awaited, and it took us it was a lot of effort. So the R&D team did a great job of getting this feature in. So
That's great
kudos to
news.
them. All right.
Yeah, it's looking pretty
thank
good.
you all.
Yes, Santa Claus comes early.
You're welcome. So yeah, so this will be available in 7.5, and like I said, we will be going through alpha testing. So if you're selected as a candidate for that, then you'll be able to get in there and play around. Okay.
Yep.
Diane, I don't know if you had any final things you wanted to share.
Thank you, Tawana. Thank you, everyone, for being in the call. We will try to practice in most of the new features on the alpha testing that is coming. So if you want to participate or be there, just let me know to share information, or as a participant, all the information regarding the alpha, and add you in the calls. Okay. So let me know. If you haven't been nominated by your manager, just let him know you want to participate, and you can practice these new features. Thank you so much. Have a good day.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Tawana.
Thank you.
Thanks, Owen.
Thank
Thanks,
you,
Iana.
everybody.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.